He warned that modern people would become strangers to themselves, that we would build extraordinary outer lives while our inner worlds collapsed into anxiety, numbness, and a desperate search for meaning we couldn't even name. His name was Carl Jung. The book was Modern Man in Search of a Soul, which is a collection of Jung's essays. And if you read it today in 2026, it doesn't feel like a book from nearly a century ago. It feels like someone hacked into your therapy notes. I'm going to walk you through the ideas in this book that are dangerously relevant right now, show you exactly how they explain the specific struggles people are facing today, and give you something you can actually use starting tonight. Let's get into it. Here's the first thing Jung says that will stop you cold. He argues that the modern person's biggest problem is not stress, it's not money, it's not even loneliness, although that's part of it. The core problem is that you have no relationship with your own unconscious mind. Now, before you check out, because that sounds abstract, let me make it concrete. Think about the last time you doom scrolled for 45 minutes and then felt worse than when you started. You didn't choose to do that. Something in you overrode your conscious intention. Or think about the last time you snapped at someone you love over something trivial, and 5 minutes later, you couldn't even explain why you were angry. That gap between what you intend to do and what you actually do, Jung would say that gap is your unconscious running the show, and in 2026, that gap has become a canyon. We now have AI tools that can write our emails, plan our meals, and schedule our entire lives. We have more optimization than any generation in history, and yet the rates of anxiety, depression, and what researchers are now calling existential emptiness are at record highs. McKinsey published a report in late 2025 showing that employee disengagement has hit its highest point since they started tracking it. People are more productive than ever and more lost than ever. Jung saw this coming. He wrote, and I'm paraphrasing here, that the person who looks outside dreams, the person who looks inside awakens. We have become a civilization of people looking outside, constantly, obsessively, and we are asleep to ourselves. Now here's where it gets really practical. Jung introduces this concept that most people have heard of, but almost nobody actually understands: the persona. Your persona is the mask you wear for the world. It's your LinkedIn profile. It's the version of you that shows up on a Zoom call with your camera on. It's the curated highlight reel you post on social media. And Jung says, the persona is necessary. You need a social mask. The problem is when you become the mask. When you forget, there's a face underneath it. Let me give you a 2026 example that will hit home. Right now, there are millions of people building personal brands online, creators, founders, coaches, consultants, and the pressure to maintain a consistent online identity is enormous. Your content has to match your brand, your opinions have to be on brand, your entire personality gets optimized for engagement. And what happens? You wake up one morning and you don't know who you are when the camera is off. You've been performing a version of yourself so convincingly that the real you has gone quiet. You can't hear your own voice anymore because the algorithm's voice is louder. Jung would call this persona inflation. You've inflated the mask until it's all there is. And the symptom? That hollow feeling, that sense that something is missing, even though on paper everything is going well. If you've ever felt successful but empty, that's not a paradox. That's a diagnosis. Jung identified it almost 100 years ago. So what do you do about it? This is where Jung's most powerful and most misunderstood idea comes in: the shadow. Your shadow is everything about yourself that you've rejected, denied, or hidden, not just the bad stuff, although that's part of it. Your shadow also contains your unlived potential, the ambitions you were told were unrealistic, The emotions you were taught were unacceptable, the parts of your personality that didn't fit the persona you built. Here's a real example. I talk to people all the time who left creative careers to take safe jobs. They became accountants, project managers, and software engineers. Nothing wrong with those careers. But 10 years in, they feel this gnawing dissatisfaction they can't explain. They have the salary, the stability, the respect, but something is eating at them. Jung would say, your unlived creativity didn't disappear, it went into the shadow. And the shadow doesn't stay quiet. It leaks out as irritability, as envy when you see someone else doing creative work, as a vague sense that you're living someone else's life. In 2026, this is an epidemic. We have an entire generation that optimized for safety during the economic uncertainty of the early 2020s. They made rational decisions, and now they're sitting in stable jobs watching AI potentially automate those very roles anyway, thinking, I gave up what I loved for security, and now even the security isn't guaranteed. The shadow always collects its debt. Now, Jung doesn't just diagnose the problem, he offers a path forward. And this is the part of the book that genuinely changed how I think about personal growth. He calls it individuation. It's a terrible word for a beautiful concept. Individuation simply means becoming who you actually are, not who your parents wanted you to be, not who your social media audience expects you to be, not who your culture says you should be, but the whole person you were meant to become, shadow and all. And here's the key insight that most self-help content gets wrong. Jung says individuation is not about finding yourself like it's a treasure hunt. It's about integrating the parts of yourself you've been running from. That anger you suppress, it might contain your assertiveness. That sadness you avoid, it might contain your depth and empathy. That weird creative impulse you dismiss, it might be the most authentic thing about you. The goal is not to eliminate the darkness. The goal is to stop pretending it isn't there and discover what it's trying to tell you. Let me give you a framework you can use tonight. This comes directly from Jung's approach in the book, translated into something actionable. I call it the 3 questions exercise. Before you go to sleep tonight, sit somewhere quiet for 10 minutes, no phone, no background noise, and ask yourself 3 questions. Question 1, what did I feel today that I didn't let myself fully feel? Maybe you were angry in a meeting but smiled through it. Maybe you felt a pang of grief about something and immediately distracted yourself. Name the feeling. Don't judge it. Just name it. Question 2, what did I do today that wasn't really me? Where did I perform instead of being genuine? Maybe you laughed at a joke that wasn't funny. Maybe you agreed with an opinion you actually disagree with. Notice the gap between the mask and the face. Question 3. If I had 0 obligations and 0 judgment from anyone, what would I want to do with my time tomorrow? Not what you should do, what you want to do. The answer might surprise you. It might scare you. That's the shadow talking. Listen to it. Do this for 7 days. Write down your answers. By day 7, you will know yourself better than most people know themselves in a lifetime. That's not an exaggeration. Most people go decades without asking themselves a single honest question. If you want to go deeper with this, I'll link a specific edition of Modern Man in Search of a Soul in the description. Now, there's a chapter in this book that almost nobody talks about, and it might be the most important one for 2026. Jung writes about the stages of life. He divides human life into 2 halves. The first half, roughly ages 16 to 40, is about building your career, your identity, your place in the world. The ego needs to get strong. The second half is about meaning. It's about turning inward. It's about asking not, what can I achieve, but what does my life actually mean? And here's the problem. Our entire culture is built for the first half. Social media rewards achievement. the economy rewards productivity. Even our wellness culture is about optimizing better sleep scores, more steps, higher HRV. It's all first half of life thinking applied to second half of life problems. Jung says that when you try to live the second half of life by the rules of the first half, you get a crisis, and not a dramatic cinematic crisis, a quiet one, a slow erosion of meaning that you medicate with busyness. Sound familiar? This is why so many people in their 30s and 40s right now feel like they're going through something they can't name. They've achieved the goals, they've checked the boxes, and the reward feels hollow. They're not depressed in the clinical sense, they're disillusioned. The story they were told about how life works turned out to be incomplete. Jung's answer is not to abandon achievement. It's to add the inner dimension, to start asking the questions that productivity culture doesn't have answers for. Who am I beyond my job title? What do I believe? Not what was I taught to believe? What would make my life feel meaningful even if nobody ever saw it or praised it? These are not luxury questions. In 2026, with AI reshaping careers overnight, with remote work dissolving the social structures that used to give us identity, with algorithmic feeds replacing genuine human connection, these questions are survival questions. There's one more idea from this book I need to share with you because it explains something that's happening right now that almost nobody is connecting the dots on. Jung writes extensively about dreams, not in a mystical crystal ball way, in a clinical, practical way. He says dreams are the unconscious mind's attempt to communicate with you. They're not random, they're not meaningless, they are your psyche trying to correct an imbalance. Now, here's what's fascinating. There's been a surge of interest in dream journaling and lucid dreaming in 2025 and 2026. Apps for dream tracking have exploded. Podcasts about dream interpretation are trending, and I think Jung would say, this is not a coincidence. This is a collective symptom. When an entire culture becomes disconnected from its inner life, the unconscious pushes back. It demands attention. And dreams are one of the few channels left that the algorithm can't colonize. You can optimize your waking life down to the minute, but when you fall asleep, the unconscious takes over, and it has things to say. If you've been having vivid, strange, or recurring dreams lately, Jung would tell you to pay attention, write them down, not to interpret them with some dream dictionary, but to sit with them, to ask, what is this dream showing me about what I'm ignoring while I'm awake? Let me bring this all together with something that I think makes this book essential reading for anyone alive right now. Jung makes an argument in Modern Man in Search of a Soul that is, frankly, prophetic. He says that the greatest danger facing modern civilization is not external. It's not war, not economic collapse, not even environmental destruction, although those matter. The greatest danger is the mass-mindedness of individuals who have lost contact with their own souls. Read that again in the context of 2026. We live in an era of unprecedented conformity disguised as individuality. Everyone has a unique personal brand that follows the same templates. Everyone has authentic opinions that were shaped by the same algorithmic feeds. Everyone is living their truth while performing for an audience. Jung would say, this is not individuality. This is mass-mindedness wearing a costume. And it's dangerous because when individuals lose contact with their own depths, they become susceptible to collective movements, to ideological possession, to following charismatic figures who promise meaning they should be generating from within. The antidote is not more information. It's not another productivity system. It's not even therapy, although therapy can help. The antidote is the hard, unglamorous, deeply personal work of getting to know yourself, your real self. The one underneath the persona, the one that includes the shadow, the one that dreams strange dreams and has desires that don't fit neatly into a content calendar. That is what Jung means by the search for a soul. It's not religious, although it can include religion. It's the search for the part of you that is irreducibly you, the part that no algorithm can predict, no AI can replicate, and no audience can define. And in 2026, that search is not optional anymore. It's the most important work you can do. So here's what I want you to do. Tonight, try the 3 questions exercise I described earlier. Give it 10 minutes, just 10 minutes of honest self-reflection without a screen in your hand. If this resonated with you, share it with one person who you think needs to hear it, a friend who's been feeling lost, a sibling who's going through a transition, a colleague who seems successful but hollow. That direct personal recommendation is worth more than 1,000 likes. I've put the book's link in the description. Jung wrote these essays when the world was on the edge of its darkest chapter. He could see that the outer world was accelerating faster than the inner world could keep up. He was right then. He's even more right now. The modern person in search of a soul is you. It's me. It's everyone watching this. The search is not easy, but it's the only one that matters. I'll see you in the next one.